Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Aleksander Vitkin, who is the founder and CEO of businessmentor.com. Aleksander, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I love the name of your business, Business Mentor. Boy, people will tell, younger students coming out of college, find a mentor, success leaves clues, model what you do after, the proven path of people that have, gone before you. So I just love businessmentor.com. I want to dive into that. But before we do, tell us a little bit of your background and your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I've been in business for 13 years, and when I started, I built an agency. We sold websites, explainer videos, all kinds of stuff. Then eventually I went to consulting. It was B2B consulting. And in 2014, a bunch of people started asking me, because of my YouTube videos, if I can teach them how to do the same, how to build a business online. So I started doing that, and it turned into this business that I run full-time now. We have hundreds of people active in the business right now as students. We have 24 or so peers, mentors, essentially. So it's been going great.
Yeah. So is there a specific type of mentorship that you focus on? So is it something like, well, if you're in, IT, we've got these mentors. Do you have a broad range of mentors?
The funny thing is, my website is businessmentor.com, but our whole thing is we don't really believe in mentors, gurus, or courses. We're really into peer mentorship, meaning that we had so many people successfully build a business in BMI, right? Our program is called BMI, that it helps to get former students to help new students. And It's so much easier for them. They make a connection so easily with new students because it's very recent for them. Whereas someone who's done it 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it's kind of fading, It's hard to connect with someone brand new in business. And we do agencies only. So tech agencies, creative agencies, and marketing agencies.
Neat. Yeah, that's a really great point you bring up, because sometimes a full-on mentor could feel out of reach to someone, and like, well, they were able to do that because, and you hear some of these marketing gurus that say, I sent one email, did one webinar, and made $1 billion trillion, and you can too, and buy my course. And it's like, well, you sent that one email because you had spent 10 years building up your list and your rapport with the list, and then of course you made that money. But I can't do that. So I think that's a really wonderful point you bring up about peer mentors, because it's like, look, I'm like you, and I couldn't figure this thing out or whatever it was, and until I did this and this and this, and so here's some tips I can guide you along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, if you have one mentor, maybe you just don't get along with that person. Maybe that person just has a different style of doing business. But if you have a choice of mentors, you have access to dozens of them, and you can pick and choose which one connects with you better or you connect with them better, you're going to do much better. It's like going back to high school, but instead of having a bunch of B player teachers and maybe one A player teacher, you can pick and choose and only have A player teachers, right? So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and I love on your website, the opening title says, Mentors, Courses, and Gurus don't work for building and scaling a 7-figure agency. Here's what does. So you are talking about bringing in kind of peer mentors. What else is it that you focus on helping people in their scaling?
Well, here's the thing, okay? Let's say you're building an agency and you've been in business for 3 years. You're making $30,000 per month, right? There's lots of people like that come to me. And they've been building processes for 3 years by trial and error, maybe going to a conference, getting like a few tips and implementing them, right? Now, what we do is totally different. What we do is we give people access to the entire library of processes that have already been tested. You don't have to go and figure out what will work for me or which process out of infinity is going to work for me. You could just pick and choose working processes from almost, well, not identical businesses, but very similar businesses, right? And then you talk to the people who invented those processes because they're mentors, essentially they're peer mentors, and they'll tell you how to implement it in your business. That way there's very little chance of failure because you don't have to do trial and error so much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does, and I really like the fact that you can look down and say how a 3D artist, Robert, started a business, and now he's making $4,000 a month after 5 weeks in the program. And so this person, when you look at this picture, it's like, they're not all buttoned up in a 3-piece suit and tie and going to put me through some academic course. This looks like someone that's like, let me just tell you what I did and follow this. Now, do you ever give advice where you say you should pick a mentor and not jump to another one and another one and another one too soon? Because I feel like sometimes people would want the shiny object and not give enough time for their advice to kind of work yet.
It depends. In the beginning, when someone's starting, they're at a low level. For example, like Robert back then, he was making only a few $1,000s per month. At that point, they should follow the basic steps, which are very, very simple. It's a matter of coaching them so that they implement the basic steps. Later on, you want to have conflicting opinions, like with science. You don't just have one scientist who says this is how it works. You have a bunch of them having a fight essentially for 50 years, and then eventually there's consensus sometimes, you see? And in business, the bigger the business is, the more you need that and the less you need exact steps, because you can't just copy-paste forever.
Yeah, that's because you have to almost like make it your own. Here's the principle, but now how do we make it your own in your business, your industry, and your background? Yeah,
exactly. And the more a business grows, businesses get exponentially more complicated just because you need more people, systems, etc., right? So the more a business grows, the more it's about learning the principles and putting A and B together yourself in your own head, right? So early on, it's follow the process. Later on is how do you actually build your own processes? How do you actually think for yourself and be independent? Because business owners become leaders. They don't just keep following a process like an employee, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point of being an entrepreneur is that creativity, not, sit in your cubicle, do these tasks all day long and go home.
Yeah, exactly. So what ends up happening is first year, someone gets to $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 per month in revenue. Then the second year, they hire a bunch of people, and then eventually they hire what you can call managers. I don't like calling them managers, but that's what people call them. And then eventually they can take themselves mostly out of the business, so they can spend only a fraction of their time working on this business. So I work with some people, they have 9 businesses at this point because they don't have to sit there and focus exclusively on one business anymore, right? So you can't get there unless you raise other people up in your business. So you have to become a leader, and to become a leader, you have to think for yourself. There's a whole process that people go through to become business owners long-term, not just for 1 year.
So give us the 30,000-foot view of going from a standstill freelancer to that person that has 9 businesses in this context. In this day and age, there's never been an easier time to start a side hustle or freelance your skills than now, because you even see on TV, Kajabi, you take your skills and create your course. But even that is just a tool. You got to have the system behind it. So how can someone today go, you know what, I'm stuck in the cubicle. I want to start doing something on my own without quitting my job. And one day I would like to scale and grow. What are some of the key points that they should keep in mind? Whoa,
that's a big one, Mike.
Yeah, we don't have 9 hours either, huh?
Okay. Really high level overview. All right, let's give it a go. So if they're in a cubicle, they're not freelancing yet. So the first step, essentially, they need to follow a proven business model, right? So the steps need to be completely clear for them. They need to know exactly what to do in their first half year. Almost every day is planned out to some extent. Like, we're not gonna tell people when to wake up or anything like that, but it's planned out in terms of what to do in the business, right? So essentially, they need to go and build a very, very simple funnel. No websites, podcasts, ads, nothing like that. We just use freelancing platforms for lead generation. Okay? Just freelancing platforms for lead generation. We don't go there to freelance. We go there for lead generation. So they built out their accounts on there in a very specific way and following a very specific process. And there's ways to do it much faster than the average person on there, by the way. I talk a lot about this on my YouTube channel, but but anyway. So they do this. They build out their profile. That is their first funnel. It's going to last for 5 years if they keep it active. So while the leads come in the third, fourth, or fifth week, they should already be getting sales calls. Week 5 to 8, they should already have had their first sale. Then month 3 to 4, they should quit their job and start hiring, maybe their first virtual assistant, for example. Then month 6 to 12, they should scale to 15K plus per month so that they can actually, a very small agency is not very effective. It's very difficult to have good clients in a very, very small agency because people just don't trust you. They're like, well, where's your proof? How are you going to do all this work yourself or just with 2 people? People don't trust very small agencies. So you need to get to a certain level before you get good clients, usually in most industries, right? So that's why I'm saying get to 15K in the first year or sooner per month, right? With a 30% plus profit margin. At 15K per month, the profit margin should be closer to 70%, by the way, right? Then year 2, the second year in business, they should be scaling to 30 to 40K per month. Now, to do that, as I said before, you need to start hiring more people, actual A players, actual delivery people, not just assistants and stuff like that. And on it goes. Then it gets really complicated, actually, right? But up to 40K or so per month, it's relatively simple, right? Now, we do have our systems all figured out all the way to multiple 7 figures, but it gets real complicated after a certain number.
Well, and I think that the whole point is with your website, with peer mentors of people that have gone through that process themselves and had fears and trepidation of, I don't know what step to take and how to do this. But if someone can show me the way and hold my hand and guide me and give me advice, then it becomes clear each step of the way. So that's what I really like about what you're doing there on Business Mentor. So wrap us up here, Alex, with what's the best way that someone could reach out, connect with you, and learn a little bit more.
Okay, well, there's multiple ways. You can just go to businessmentor.com and reach out there. If you want to watch content, go to YouTube. Just type in my name into YouTube, Aleksander Vitkin. And I think I also have a podcast, but it's the same content as on YouTube. I recommend watching that on YouTube because there's visuals. That's pretty much it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful having you on the show today.
Thank you, Mike. Really, really great podcast you have going here. I've actually watched or listened to a few episodes. They're really good.
Great. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.